Well, over the years, we have learned a lot in handyman business here. As many of you guys know, I started out in this industry January 1st, 2017, full-time. Today is September 28th, 2023. So I've been in a little bit over 6 years now, and I've learned a whole heck of a lot. Specifically, one really cool thing that I've learned is how to sell jobs over the phone. As it sits right now, we're at about, almost $450,000 this year that we have sold almost completely over the phone, and it's been an absolute game changer. So back in the day, and I've talked about it a lot here, back in the day we used to go out and give an estimate in person. Every single estimate we would give in person. So the way that I ran it when I was a sole person in the business, a solopreneur, is I would set aside 1 day a week to go give estimates. So say it'd be Wednesday this week, Thursday next week, Friday the next week. I always wanted to kind of rotate it so that the estimate day would work well for someone else. I would go out, I would just fill up that day with, estimate after estimate after estimate. So, about 8 estimates in a day, every hour on the hour. And basically what I found is that, I would go out, I'd give estimates, and I wouldn't hear back from people, right? Yesterday's video was all about, how do you deal with that? How do you kind of overcome that when people just ghost you and you never hear back from a client? You go out and you give them the best estimate possible. Well, we've really curbed that and figured out a way to sell most of our jobs over the phone, which has been absolutely fantastic. We've been doing this for about a year now, and basically we created a whole sales process. And that whole sales process is outlined in the Handyman Sales Handbook. And with that, we've kind of created a little cheat sheet. This is for our estimator personally. This cheat sheet is basically a script of everything to say when you're talking with a client so you can sell them over the phone. And basically, just to give a little, precursor to this, right? Before we go into this, we always have pictures gathered. So when people call our business, they talk to our CSR. And I want to walk you guys through this because there's 6 different aspects of this sales process, and I think they're very important. So you're definitely going to want to stick around to the end to hear all of these. Okay, so basically people call in, they talk to our CSR. Our CSR basically first weeds them out. So is it a job that we can do? Are they cool with our minimum? Are they cool with our time frame that we could get to them? And if not, she sends them away, right? So she's our first line of defense, right? To, weed out those tire kickers. Then if they are a good fit in our area, need what we do, this and that, she goes ahead and gathers photos from them and a little bit of description of the work that they need done. She takes those photos, and at that time when she has them on the phone, she either transfers them to our estimator if he's available. If he's not available, she basically takes all the information, puts it on company cam, and then our estimator knows to call them at his next availability. And he walks them through this script. There's 6 different aspects of this script, and they're very, very important. And I kind of want to give a brief detail of what each one of those points are in the script and why they're important. So the first one is the why. Now this is important because I think a lot of times when we go out and we do work for people, we're focused on the actual work, right? Like, oh, you need a toilet replaced? I can do that, and here's why I can do it the best, right? Here's why you would want to choose me to replace your toilet because I can do it the best, right? Where the why, actually focuses on, well, why does that client need that toilet replaced, right? Like, what's going on, what's bugging them about that, and how can you solve that problem? So it's not so much about just replacing their toilet, but it's solving the problem that they have based around the toilet, right? Like, maybe you find out that it runs every, in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., right? And that's really what their concern is. And how can you fix that concern rather than just, replacing the toilet, if that makes sense? So the second aspect is the time frame. Now this is huge because you want to knock out these things first off. It's really a way of weeding people out. So the time frame is huge because you tell people, hey, Jack, Jill, I know that you need this stuff done. What if I told you we couldn't get to it for 3 weeks? Would that be a deal breaker? And the client right then would be like, oh yeah, I need this done like tomorrow because I'm having, family come in this weekend. If that's the case, then that's the case. And they go on and find another handyman that could help them out tomorrow. If they are okay with 3 weeks out, you've already gotten a semi-quasi commitment there. And they understand that, hey, we have a long wait list because, people desire our product. And if they're willing to wait, then they are more of your ideal client than they were before. The third aspect is the cash. Now, this is something that really separates kind of the in-person estimates from the phone estimates. Because I remember back when I did in-person estimates, back when I first started, I was so scared to give them a price, right? Because I didn't want to give them a price face to face, because I didn't want, like, if I was to be honest, right, is codependency, I didn't want them to challenge that. I didn't want them to be like, what? Why are you so expensive? Like, blah, blah, blah. You know, I didn't want to deal with that. I was scared of that. So I'm like, okay, I'll go home, I'll work up an estimate, I'll talk to my wife, and then I'll send over an estimate to you. Not even call them up and give them an estimate, just send it to them. Because I was trying to do everything on the back end. I was too afraid to have that face-to-face conversation. But at the end of the day, when people call you for handyman work, they want a price. Like, that's what they're looking for. The two things that they want is they want to know when can you do it and how much can you do it for. And if you can't do it quick enough and if you can't do it cheap enough for them, then they're not your ideal client and you're not their ideal handyman. And that's perfectly fine. They can go off and find someone that will do it as soon as they need it and as cheap as they need it. Those things are out there, and if they look, they'll find it. So what we do is we go through all the jobs they need done. We try and get as good of a description as we can. We follow the pictures. We have the clients walk us through these pictures, give us more information about what they need done, and then we actually give them a price right there on the phone. We give it's obviously a ballpark price, right? Like, you know, if you need this, and you know, if everything, you know, is how we think it is, you're probably going to be around whatever it is, $550, whatever price you want to throw out there. And right then, it will tell you if that client wants to move forward or not. So it will stop you and it'll stop them from wasting each other's time, right? Sometimes we'll give an estimate. We'll say, okay, it's $500, right? Someone will be like, well, can you email me that, like, in writing? Like, can you itemize that? What you do at that point, according to the script, is you say, well, you know, I would love to kind of walk you through the prices here over the phone. If you have a second, if you want to have a pen and paper and write this down, you know, the ceiling fan's going to be $198, the kitchen faucet's going to be $198, you know, the toilet's going to be blah, blah, blah. And you actually give it to them verbally right there. So you don't have to take your time and actually write up an estimate or write up an email and send it to them, because at the end of the day, time is money, right? So you're saving money by doing this stuff. At the end of the day, all they want is a price. And if all they want is a price, then they can get the price and then they can move on. So estimates are always free, right? The next caveat of the sales process here is called the truth. Now, this is really where the meat and potatoes is, because you've given them the cash, you've given them how much it's going to cost, right? If everything looks great, it's going to cost you $500, right? Or that's kind of the ballpark we're looking at. The truth is, you tell them straight up, you say, hey, Joanne, I also want to let you know, sometimes, you know, when we get into this type of particular job, when we, you know, pull the wall apart or take the ceiling fan down, we may encounter some other issues. And if that does happen, Joanne, could I get your permission to kind of call time out on this job, and we could just talk about that and what that price is going to look like going forward? And most of the time, they're like, yeah, that would be great. Like, I would absolutely love for you to talk to me about price before, you know, things go up and down, right? So by establishing the truth, you're establishing the fact that things go wrong. Nothing is ever kind of set in stone, right? This is an estimate, and this is what I think it'll cost, but God only knows what happens when we open this puppy up, right? The fifth is the consult. This is huge because sometimes you'll give a client, you know, a rough estimate, say it's $500, right, to do whatever it is. Sometimes the client will say, you know, I would still love to meet you. Can you come on out and just take a look at this? I just want you to have eyes on it in person. Well, the consultation is really another way to kind of weed out those clients that aren't really interested in working for you, but they really just want a written estimate, right? So the consult goes like this. Yeah, Joanne, we would love to come out and, you know, take a look at this work and give you an exact estimate for this work. We have a $100 consultation fee, and that gets applied to the job if we decide to move forward together. So you say that and you be quiet after that, right? And that will tell you right there if they're interested in actually working for you or if they're interested in just getting a price. Because if they're just interested in getting a price, no way they're going to pay the $100 consult. They're going to be like, that's insane, I'm not paying $100. But if they already trust you and like you and want to go with you and like your price, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's fine, $100, no big deal. Because they understand that that's like a down payment. The $100 is going to go towards the job. So yeah, sure, why not? Because I'm already going to pay for the job. So at the end of the day, it really whittles the people down even further so that you know that they are your ideal client and they have skin in the game. talking of skin in the game, our sixth avenue of the sales process is the deposit. So at the end of the day, if they have accepted the cash, if you told them the truth, all this and that, and they're ready to move forward, on the phone you tell them, hey Joanne, the next step is, I'll go ahead and work up this estimate for you. I'll send it over to you, and then there's a 10% deposit. You go ahead and pay that and accept the estimate, and we'll go ahead and reach out to you and get this thing scheduled. Does that sound good? Yeah, sounds great. Sign me up, right? Because if someone's cool with the price, if they're cool with the time, if they're cool with all that, why would they not want to pay a deposit? A deposit has really changed the game, because we used to have people back when we first started out that would, we would book them, sometimes we'd be even a month out, and then it would come time to actually do their work, and they'd call us the day before, or what it was even worse, they would never call us, and we would just show up at their house the day of, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I had that work done 2 weeks ago. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I've had this on my schedule. Like, I planned my day for this, right? So the deposit is like a confirmation between both parties of like, I am going to be there when I say I'm going to be there, and you're going to be there when I say I'm going to be there. Like, we're both ready to rock and roll on this project, and we both have skin in the game. So by and large, that sales process has really transformed our business. You can learn more about it. We go a lot more in depth in the Handyman Sales Handbook, but I wanted to give you a good brief overview of how we do that. Like I said, we've sold about $450,000 worth of work on the phone this year. So imagine how much time, imagine how much fuel that has saved us by just doing everything from the comfort of our own office, right? It has helped dramatically with our bottom line. So the Handyman Sales Handbook, we wrote that, I think it was about a year and a half ago. You can check this out on Amazon. I got a link in the description below. And also another thing I want to let you guys know about, it's not sales, but it's about pricing. So pricing is probably the #1 thing that most people ask about. And I'm doing a webinar. So Handyman Success, if you guys don't know, we have a Handyman Success podcast. It's a very successful podcast where we interview successful handyman. That launches on this YouTube channel at the beginning of every month. We've branched out. So now we're doing